Well, hey, good Tuesday evening, everyone. State Representative Brad Halbrook here on our Tuesday night live stream roundtable. And I am joined with the ever gracious and humble public servants leader, Chairman Chris Miller of the Freedom Caucus, leader David Freeze, and Executive Director of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, Colin Mosley. Gentlemen, welcome to tonight's roundtable. How's everything going? Good?
Great. Just a little chilly, but that's fine. It's that time of year.
A little bit of snow or a lot of bit of snow, depending on where you are in the state. And so it's winter has started already, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's nice to look across the street and see my neighbor's solar panels are covered in snow. So I hope he's got a coal fire, natural gas backup.
We can only hope. Well, gentlemen, tonight you've had a chance to look at the thing. We are going to, instead of talk about the 12 days of Christmas, we're going to talk about Governor Pritzker's 12 days of crisis. And tonight we're going to delve into men and women's sports, the crime situation, and education. And so, gentlemen, on the first day of the crisis, Governor Pritzker gave to me a policy that makes us wonder if parents have accidentally enrolled their kids in a clown school the way it's going on in some of these schools. Can you believe what's going on? It seems like maybe Springfield has declared war on common sense, but it doesn't look like common sense put up much of a fight the way it's going. I guess that's why we're here, right, gentlemen? Truth, logic, and common sense.
Yes.
Well,
exactly.
I'm really glad that we're rolling with the unvarnished truth because they're going to start taxing varnish. And so I heard that yesterday.
Isn't that great? So we've got this situation that continues to persist where actually before a congressional panel, the congressman from Texas, the freshman congressman from Texas, asked Governor Pritzker about whether he had used a women's restroom or not. He had kind of an interesting 5-minute back and forth with the congressman from Texas.
Yeah, that was pretty revealing when to watch JB fumble and bumble over that question. I think that he was maybe a little bit surprised at the frontal confrontation, no pun intended there. but no, it's interesting that we're just starting to see these things make get to the forefront in our nation, because I don't know how many years ago has it been since we went to the YMCA when the Wheeler girls were being harassed for their not wanting men in their locker rooms. Has that been 2 or 3 years ago now?
I think it's been 2.5 years.
Yeah, nobody was even talking about that, but we've been continually beating the drum that this is an issue. This is a problem. I know I have 5 daughters, and if this was if my daughters were still in the school age and this was still a problem, I guarantee you that I'd be camping out there until something changed. I don't know where the men are.
Right.
The dad.
Right.
Yeah, this is one of the things that really puzzles me, because just a few years ago, you think about this, if a man walked himself butt-ass naked through a women's locker room, you'd call that guy a perv, and you would arrest him for indecent exposure. And now what do we got? Somebody would try and arrest him, and he would say, "Oh, excuse me, officer, my penis identifies as a vagina. It's all okay." I mean, really?
That's a lot of
folks. I mean, we have lost our mind. Yeah,
we have lost our mind.
Yeah, of all, I mean, there's a lot of confusing things that go on in Springfield, but this by far is the most confusing to me.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should use the terminology of Frank and beans rather than that other stuff that starts. Maybe we should do that. So anyhow.
Well, to me, what's the most sad about this entire situation is the Democrats were not satisfied with adults being the only ones that were confused about their gender. They want it to be our children too. It goes beyond tolerance. It's that they prefer for our kids to be gender fluid. and they prefer that so much so that they're willing to use your tax dollars to pay for it. The report from the Chicago Tribune here, Illinois Medicaid is covering gender affirming care. So when you talk about waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer funded programs, look no further than Medicaid paying for gender switches.
Yeah.
I think that's got it all wrapped up, the waste, fraud, and abuse in that one there, Mr. Director. Yeah. Well, it's like, there's folks in the General Assembly that think that truth is whatever they want it to be. It's like they have their own adult Build-A-Bear philosophy around some of this stuff.
Yeah. Strange, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else on this slide, gentlemen, before we go on to day number 2 of Governor Pritzker's crisis? Yeah. So crime rates are skyrocketing in the city, but on the bright side, gentlemen, maybe the statistics identify as being lower. What do you think about that? Let's go to David Freeze.
Well, I get a kick out of these guys that they turn a blind eye to what's going on in their own neighborhoods, and it, especially the representatives of that area, because nobody wants to live like this. Nobody wants to live in a crime-ridden neighborhood. They want to defund the police. They want to let criminals go. And here we've got this guy who was, had 72 contacts with law enforcement and arrested 72 times or whatever, and ends up just why again, this is all thanks to the Democrats and Governor Pritzker. I know I wouldn't want to live like that, and I think there's probably a good reason why people are leaving the city of Chicago in the state of Illinois as a whole.
Right. Yeah, our governor dressed up, a couple of months ago, with a bulletproof vest on, making fun of the crime situation in the city. And then every weekend, multiple fatalities. And now we have a situation where this individual was arrested or incarcerated, or not incarcerated, maybe 72 different occurrences with law enforcement. And he sets this young lady on fire on public transportation. Colin, it just seems insanity at maybe the best or worst. I'm not sure what it is.
It is. I mean, they're playing music while the Titanic is sinking around them. I mean, people are literally dying in the streets, and yet it's just like any other policy. They are clinging with a death grip, they're trying to convince you that even though all this stuff is happening, the Safety Act's still okay. Except until just really recently, where now even you've got Chicago's prosecutor and even the governor backpedaling a little bit and saying, well, maybe we should consider tweaking the Safety Act. Well, no kidding. It's like we told you that 3 years ago. How many people could we have saved from being victimized? Maybe this girl didn't have to get set on fire if you would have listened to some common sense 3 years ago. And the other tragedy to me on this is how a city can have the worst crime rate and simultaneously have the most restrictive rights to carry a firearm, because people who carry one of these usually don't get set on fire.
Right.
Yeah, usually there's a way that lead poisoning covers the matchstick or something. It's like everything else in Springfield. It's okay till it's not, and in the meantime, we're going to pretend like there's not really a problem here. I love the analogy that Representative Leader McLaughlin makes when he talks about, if you got 106-degree fever and it goes down to 105, you still have a problem. It's kind of the same way with their shooting rates and their death rates and all that stuff. To me, if one person gets shot and killed, you got a problem, or at least we would think we have a problem where I live. But this goes on every week, every weekend. I mean, I don't remember ever hearing any reports that there was, they'll say, well, we only had 20 shootings this week, and normally we have 30 or 40. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not seeing that's a win.
Yeah. No, and I, I've asked myself, I've asked a lot of people I talk with about this. It's like, so everybody says, "Oh, this is fine, everything's fine in the city of Chicago." It's like, well, at what point is it unacceptable? You tell me, what number of deaths or shootings do you have to where you finally admit, okay, folks, we've got a problem. 30 people were shot and killed, or whatever. Give me a number. But the fact that they just want to turn a blind eye to this and ignore it is really unfortunate for those citizens up there, because I would not want to live like that. And I think we actually have the power to fix this, and we need to do that. Those citizens, we owe that to those citizens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. All right, gentlemen, anything else we move to the next slide? All right. Third day of crisis, JB Pritzker gave to us an expensive and failed education system that's run by liberals. Guys, it's just, I guess we're so advanced in school and education, public education in the state. We're not only failing in math, we're not only failing in reading, but now we're failing in biology, history, and common sense. It's like an academic buffet of everything but exactly what parents want, right? They want their kids to be safe in school. They want quality teaching. They want a quality curriculum and education. And they're just getting the exact opposite. It just doesn't make any sense. Colin, I think you were going to lead off this conversation.
Well, when I hear this, and I hear about every topic really today, you remember that old show where stupid things would happen and eventually the person would look up and say, "Am I being punked?" I mean, that's how I feel about every policy issue, including this one, where we have terrible proficiencies in these liberal teachers unions run schools. We've got illegal immigrants flooding CPS. We've got people who don't know the difference in a boy or a girl writing mental health law.
Mhm.
And yet they come to Springfield every year and want what, an extra $350 million this year?
Yes.
Because the answer is just let's spend more money. A completely manufactured crisis by the Liberal Education Association. If we would just simply teach reading, writing, and math and science, we might be able to get somewhere. But they would rather teach our kids about gender and being a climate activist.
Right. Right. Chris, I'm not sure. It's what is it? The Illinois Educational Industrial Complex or cabal, or what's the other term they use for
the educational industrial complex is what it is. And, they're more interested in selling textbooks. And I would think that would be interesting because they're always trotting out a new method. And my thoughts are, I mean, if it was me, I would be looking at some of the methodology, because even, I mean, some of the local schools printed their scorecard in the local paper here recently, and consistently nobody can do math. And part of the problem is Common Core math. I mean, they need to go back to some where, how some of the greatest minds in America were educated, using Saxon math, using simple methodology, simple formulas. And in my mind, I mean, because I've looked at this Common Core math, and I'm thinking they've complicated the simple, and because they made it where I mean, I have some friends that are parents right now, and their kids are going through this process, and they're smart people, and they can't help them with their math because it's so stupid and nonsensical. But they need to go back to some of the old tried and true methods. Maybe go back to the McGuffey reader, because they can't read, write, or do math. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the methodology.
Right.
Used to coach, and I had the philosophy KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And we need to return to some of just the common sense, basic understandings of how all these things work. And I guarantee you, we'd be turning out kids that could do math, that they could critically think, that they could write. I mean, they aren't even challenged to have big thoughts or big ideas because they're so worried about the social engineering side of the process.
Right.
Yeah. But they're going to fix this, because didn't they lower the standards for graduation?
Yeah, they did.
Right.
Yeah. So instead of teaching them, we're just going to lower the standards and push people through. So even if on the off chance that that individual goes to college, that first person's freshman year at college is going to be like a junior year in high school education wise. So they're going to have to spend 6 to 8 years in college to learn what they're supposed to have learned in high school.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that my oldest daughter went to the U of I. It's been close to 20 years ago now, but she said she was sitting in her freshman English class, and the professor looked at the students after they turned in their first piece of work, and they said, "How did you get into this university?" That was the biggest question that they had, is how did you ever get into this classroom to start with? Because it was so pathetic.
Yeah, and I know they have placement tests, and that's why they have placement tests is because the colleges got to know that you're ready for that, Econ 101 or Math 101, English 101, whatever it is, that freshman class, you got to be prepared for it. And I guarantee it, a large majority of these students are going through remedial education.
Well, it's just like I used to substitute teach, and I remember one of the classes I was subbing in was a history class, and I asked them what they'd been doing in American history, and they said, "Well, the teacher's been pretending to teach, and we've been pretending to learn." And of course, it was a yuckity yuck moment, but I'm guessing that there was probably a lot more truth to that statement than what was intended.
And you look down in the bottom left corner of this on the Chicago Public Schools allowing unlimited absences for illegal alien children. Well, not only is that stupid on its face, but if you dig in a little deeper, what it tells me is two things. That their moral, emotional argument about how we should educate these children no matter where they've come from in our world. Well, you're not doing that if you allow them to not be at school every day. And the other thing is, one of the biggest arguments for the homeschool bill was we don't know where these kids are at. They're unsupervised. No one's checking on them. Nobody sees them every day, blah, blah, blah. Well, how's that any different than not letting these kids come to school forever?
Right.
So, they're totally hypocritical, and they're doing these kids a disservice by allowing them to just never be at school.
Well, and I think the absenteeism is not even an issue just alone for these illegal aliens, but for the other students, and even the teaching staff has got rather high absenteeism. So it's a real problem all the way around. Well, gentlemen, I don't think we have anything else. I guess, do we have one more slide? Yep. So stay tuned. Days 4 through 12 is left. More Crisis with JB Pritzker. Taxes, pensions, ethics. Boy, Leader Chairman Miller and Leader Freeze, the list never ends with this bunch. They tee stuff up for us every day. So we've got plenty of stuff to talk about. Hopefully that you all will join us back. And as always, like, share, comment, and subscribe to our content. Miller, anything left to add, or Colin, David?
Well, we're just trying to stay close to the fire. It's pretty doggone cold up here in Northeast Coles County.
Yeah. All right. Director, do you have anything you want to say about this last slide, where to find us? All good. There we are, IllinoisFreedomCaucus.org and the Substack, and find us there. And with that, we'll say good evening and join us next.